Hello everyone, Bertina Amy here, and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I thought I would do 4 Dollar Tree Halloween decor ideas. So in today's video, I am using a Dollar Tree witch hat wreath form. Unfortunately, mine broke since bringing it home because I was really trying to mess around with it after I brought it home, and I didn't even realize I broke it by accident. So because of that, I'm still going to use it anyways instead of returning it. And that way it doesn't really matter because I know that once I have my ribbon wrapped on it, it's going to be fine. So I'm starting out with a black burlap ribbon from Joann Fabrics. They were on sale for $3.20 for a 2.5 by 12 feet long ribbon. So I'm going to start wrapping at the top of the hat, and I'm using what I call the braided weaving wrapping method or something like that. I'm open to suggestions. You're going to want to use the entire roll, so take it completely off the spool. Don't cut it like I did. Fold it in half, going both ways, long ways and the short way, and start wrapping it around the tip of the hat, going under and over and under and over on both sides of the wires. The goal here is to make sure that the wires are always as covered as you can make it. I ended up needing 2 rolls of that ribbon, and I considered using the Dollar Tree ribbon that is velvet, except that only came in 1 yard per roll, and when I did the calculations, it was going to cost me about $10 with how much of the ribbon I used for the burlap ribbon, and frankly, I saved $4 just by using the black burlap ribbon instead of the velvet ribbon from Dollar Tree. And feel free to use only Dollar Tree products if you wish. They do sell burlap ribbon, but I didn't see any in black, but you could spray paint it afterwards if you wanted to use Dollar Tree ribbon instead. So here I go ahead and take the edge of the rest of the ribbon from the first roll, and I go ahead and use hot glue on the inside of the previous or the inside of the new one, and just make sure they overlap a little bit so that they stay attached. And this is mostly going to be in the back. You'll see some of it in the front a little bit, but easily you could cover that up using your embellishments. So you're just going to attach ribbon to both sides and continue the wrapping process until that roll runs out. With the remaining strands, I go ahead and wrap them around the bar and glue them, but you could skip this step because I undo it later anyways. Then I go ahead and take a brand new roll and start wrapping the brim of this hat. And once the brim is completely wrapped, I go ahead and cut off the excess and use a little bit of hot glue to secure it at the back, and then use the remaining pieces to attach to the previous roll that I had wrapped around the bar, if that makes sense. So then I go ahead and attach the excess ribbon to the previous ribbon using the same method as earlier, where I make sure to cover up any of the hot glue because trying to peel that off from burlap is a real pain in the neck. So I don't recommend trying to bother with that. Instead, just cover it up by gluing the new ribbon or the excess ribbon over that dried up glue, and that way you won't even notice it. And obviously, if you had skipped the step of wrapping it around the bar and gluing it, then you'd be fine and you don't even have to worry about covering up any dried up hot glue. So from here, go ahead and continue the wrapping process around the remainder of the hat until you reach the brim. Then go ahead and take the remainder ribbon and make sure to secure it in the back using just a bit of hot glue, and once that cools, go ahead and trim off the excess. This also helps to secure the wire part of the wreath form to the other part of the brim where it got broken before earlier. I didn't end up needing to trim off any excess, so depending on how you wrap yours, it may differ from mine. Then the next step is the best part in my opinion. It's where you can go ahead and embellish your hat the way you wish. I chose to pick up 1 roll each of these velvet ribbons from Dollar Tree, 1 turquoise, 1 purple, and I decided to do a sort of faux bow by just wrapping it around one side and then just crossing it up in the front to make it sort of look like or resemble a bit of a bow. Keep in mind these velvet ribbons from Dollar Tree only come 1 yard per roll, which honestly isn't very much, and you can't even make an actual bow in the front of the hat. After some finagling around with the ribbon around the hat, I decided to take a pipe cleaner and wrap it around the center to create that sort of faux bow look, and then trim off the excess pipe cleaner. Then I decided to go ahead and open the turquoise one and just kind of layer it underneath the purple one and repeat the process because I like the color combination with both of them on the hat as decoration. Then I go ahead and dovetail the ends and then go ahead and go through my stash and pull out some spiders and bats from last year's stash. I had these purple gemmed spiders from last year's stash and I go ahead and decide to use them to embellish my wreath with. I start off by cutting off the ring part of these spiders. I want to use one of them to go ahead and cover up the pipe cleaner of the center of my bow, and I decide to create sort of my own spider out of two different spiders. One of them was from the Floral Picks last year, and the other one is from the spider rings. I just go ahead and use the gem to be the sort of body of the spider itself. I hope that makes sense. Once I go ahead and hot glue my new spider to the center of the bow, I go ahead and cut off the ring portions of all the purple spiders that I had in stash. Then I pull these silvery looking bats. They were from Floral Picks last year that I didn't use and saved for this year, and decide to arrange that with the spiders to try to figure out sort of some kind of an arrangement that I would like as far as embellishing is going. And I wanted to also make sure that I covered up any sort of mishaps or imperfections. Once I'm satisfied with the arrangement, I go ahead and hot glue everything down to the hat. I also pulled these witch boots that I really liked from Dollar Tree last year. They have them again this year, but I still had them in my stash from last year because I chose not to use them for my other wreath last year, and I thought they would go really well on either side of this hat. So I go ahead and take off the tags and grab some pipe cleaners, only in black, and I actually string them through between the wreath form and the shoes and just tie them towards the back nice and tight. If you have black zip ties, those would work really well as well. And make sure to go ahead and cut off the excess. Then last but not least, I go ahead and take another black pipe cleaner and just string it through the very top of the tip of the hat and just twist it upon itself towards the very top so that I make a loop, and that way I can hang it on the door. And here's the final result. Let me know what you think in the comments below. This next DIY is from last year, and I decided to do something with these witch hat packs from Dollar Tree. They come 8 in a pack, and they're just ornaments as they're listed on the pack, but I decided to make sort of like a cute little miniature version of a witch hat using Dollar Tree products. So I go ahead and take 2 of them and glue them together using Elmer's glue, and I go ahead and do that with the rest of them, which then gives me 4. Then I take some black felt from Dollar Tree and I go ahead and take the packaging off, and I go ahead and unroll it and cut off a strip wide enough and long enough to completely cover one of the hats. Then I hot glue one side to the strip. Then I go ahead and fussy cut around the hat, just leaving about a small little margin around so that I can go and wrap around the edges. I use hot glue to secure all around the edges. Then I go ahead and go all around the excess, cutting it off as closely to the piece of wood as possible. Once you're happy with it, go ahead and glue the exposed wood onto another part of the black felt. Then trim off the excess felt, making sure not to accidentally cut into the hat itself. Then take a pipe cleaner of your choice. I'm going with this sort of fuchsia metallic color pipe cleaner. In this case, they're called tinsel stems. And because it seems so thin, I go ahead and fold it in half and twist it upon itself, and that way the length is actually just right. Then I pop off a tab off of a soda can, and then I use that as the buckle of the belt. You can also use the colors red and green pipe cleaners just to go along with the theme of Hocus Pocus if that's your thing. You can use these as ornaments or make them into magnets. I think this turned out really cute. And here's the final result. Let me know what you think in the comments below. So I made this wreath last year, and I apologize, the background is really bright because the tablecloth underneath was kind of sort of shiny, so that's why. In any case, I had seen these wreaths being made all over YouTube, and I wanted to try my hand at it, so I grabbed the supplies that I was the most attracted to make my wreath. I started out by taking my pipe cleaners, cutting them down in half, then I tied them on to the areas where they cross, and there's like 8 of them. I think that makes sense. And then I start cutting down my deco mesh and tulle and whatever else I wanted to use. I kind of just eyeballed this. I made my best guess of something around 6 to 8 inches in length, and then I just took one, cut it down, and then used that one as sort of my template and just kept cutting them down until the whole roll was cut out. Then I took the first 8 that I cut and I tied them on towards the center of the pipe cleaners after scrunching them down the middle. Once all 8 were tied down, I was kind of playing around with this tubing for a little bit, and then I decided I'd come back to it. And I had purchased this roll of black tulle with glittery ghosts on it that I thought was really pretty, so I decided to cut that down in a similar length as the rest of the deco mesh. And here I'm just attaching a mixture of regular black Deco mesh, regular black tulle, and that special glittery ghost black tulle that I mentioned earlier. And I'm trying to make some kind of pattern between the original attachments with the purplish pipe cleaners, if that makes sense. Except that I'm just using black pipe cleaners to attach these. And I'm always attaching them to the middle wire of the entire wreath form. This is also one of the larger wreath forms that Dollar Tree carries, and so it required a lot of rolls of various items like tulle or Deco mesh or whatever, and I had to get more when I realized I was running out. The tubing can help a little bit, but it really only helps very little. Thankfully, I had previously purchased black tulle for making my daughter's baby skirt, and I ended up using some of that for this project as well. I also ended up using this pack of napkins to use as my guide for the cutting length. And once I had all the tulle and Deco mesh available and ready and figured out my pattern, I go ahead and finish putting the rest of it on until I was happy with the fullness of this wreath. You could go fuller, but for me, I was satisfied with where it was at. And even though I know you can kind of see some of the original wreath form from one side, I still was planning on making it better anyways. And I also had previously purchased a roll of the purple Deco mesh, which I really wanted to use to add to the color so that it wasn't just solid black. So I decided to cut that down into the length I mentioned earlier, and then I was twisting it down the middle, and then I was trying to pull the edges towards all to one side and then attaching it to the outer part of the wreath so that you get a hint of that purple, and I think that really looked nice. Then finally I knew I wanted to go ahead and embellish this wreath to also help to cover the little bit of that wire in the center of the wreath form. So I picked up some floral stems from the Dollar Tree and I chose colors that I liked, and I went with black and purple, and I specifically picked roses. And the purple one, and they still have it this year, the purple one has kind of a couple different shades going on with it, which made me like it even more. I decided to place the flowers alternating colors and just went around the entire wreath that way, and I really liked the way that looked, so I went ahead and decided to glue them down with hot glue. I also went ahead and used some of the branches from these floral picks, and some of them kind of looked kind of wicked looking, so I decided to use those and embellish surrounding the flowers as well on this wreath. Then finally I considered maybe even using the witch boots or the witch hat to put in the center, but opted against it and decided to keep it the way it was. I really like the way it turned out. You can also opt to use one of the signs to put in the middle as well, or instead of, but I ended up not using either of these signs, even though I think it would work well as well. And you can also DIY your own using the back of the signs as well. And here's the final result. Let me know what you think in the comments below. So last year I made a DIY Halloween centerpiece to match my DIY Halloween wreath. From the floral picks I picked up last year, I bought enough to actually use for this DIY centerpiece. And I had previously made this DIY case using Dollar Tree frames, which is in an older video. And the black foam board isn't looking very straight because I had to squeeze it in instead of trimming off the excess even better than I did. I was afraid of having more gaps. So I didn't mind that there was these sort of like creases or folds from squeezing it in, because I knew I was going to cover it up with all of my decor inside it anyways. These floral leaves that I'm sorting through are actually from the floral picks that I'd already used in the DIY Halloween wreath. I go ahead and take the matte black ones and just glue them into the corners. I did have to cut off the little plastic tubes in the back that connects it to the floral stems, and that way it was more flat so I could actually glue them into the corners. Doing this is entirely optional, but I felt putting them there actually made it look more complete or less messy, so this is just a personal choice and preference. I then decided to take the remaining leaves and try to make clusters, sort of in a sense making like black flowers on their own, and I combined leaves that I thought would look good next to each other. And I decided to do this for all the remaining black leaves from the previous floral stems that I had left. Then I took this floral foam, kind of a cylindrical or kind of a partial cone shape, and because I really absolutely hate touching the floral foam stuff from my skin anyways, I just leave the plastic on. And a lot of other YouTubers say how the hot glue actually melts the foam anyway, so I just go ahead and make an arrangement on the floral foam with my remaining floral picks and cover up as much of that green as possible, and I directly hot glue it right onto the plastic. And the floral stem part will actually poke through into the foam itself, so it actually works out really nicely. At the very top of the floral foam, I go ahead and put some of those sort of black flowers I created out of the remaining leaves. And I also try to squeeze them in wherever I see fit in my arrangement so that it's not all just plain purple or anything like that. I kind of want to break it up a little bit, but it also allows me to cover up more of that green foam that is not so appealing. And then in the center of the top part of this floral foam arrangement, I go ahead and hot glue one more, or should I say maybe my best of all of my purple floral picks that I had left. And anywhere I could still see some of that green floral foam peeking through, I go ahead and cover it up with some more of those sort of faux flowers I created with those leaves. And any of the ones I don't end up using up, I go ahead and throw it into my case as sort of like a base for underneath this arrangement. I still had some of that wicked looking branches, and I wanted to go ahead and stick them throughout this arrangement as well. And this is totally optional, but I decided to do it anyways. I decided to take some of my remaining best faux florals that I made out of those remaining leaves and glue them to the bottom of this arrangement that I made. And I think it helps to cover up that ugly green foam, even though no one's going to really see it unless they pick it out. But I really like that as a backing instead. It turned out that at the time last year, I wasn't able to find any sort of fairy lights at Dollar Tree, oddly enough, but I had a nearby pop shelf and picked up a pack from there. And I decided to go ahead and make the centerpiece light up and decide to wrap this right around the entire floral arrangement so that I can actually have this light up as a centerpiece. And I do my best to use some sort of like sticky, tacky, what they call alien tape, or at least Dollar Tree's version of it, and try to stick it to the side or inside of my case, but it doesn't really stick very well and doesn't really bother me that much if it just kind of dangles anyways. I guess it kind of depends on how you feel about it when you're making it. But here is the final result. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Also, please let me know in the comments below which of these 4 different Halloween Dollar Tree DIYs is your favorite. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button and subscribe. And until next time, we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.